Sergeant's Miniatures game by Lost Battalion Games and designed by Jeff Billings. This is going to be a tutorial more than a review. In this tutorial, I hope to show you the basic setup, map construction, how to choose your armies, and the basic gameplay within Sergeants. We'll go through the first few turns of the Scenario 1 out of the scenario book that's included, which again should show you most of the game mechanics and overall how the game plays, what it looks like, and what you're in store for with this game. Included with Day of Days is a scenario book with several scenarios. The one we're looking at here is called First Contact. It's a small engagement of a couple small forces of Germans and Americans that meet at a crossroads on June 6th, 1944. In the scenario, you'll find a situation report which explains a little bit about the background of this particular battle. You'll have an orders section which will explain which orders cards that are included in the game will be drawn for each side. We'll get into that and explain orders a little better later. The force levels are orders of battle, which essentially tell you who you can include in your army. Some of the soldiers must be included and are required. Others can be chosen based on a victory point total, which are listed on each of the soldiers' card. In this particular scenario, each force can also purchase additional grenades for victory points. Lastly, you have special instructions. In the special instructions, you'll have things such as in this game, or in this scenario, it took place before dawn, so there's a sighting limit of 3 map squares due to the night conditions. Also, it explains how to adjust the story deck for this particular scenario. All of the components in Day of Days are excellent. The map is printed on a good hard fiberboard type material and are labeled clearly, and the artwork is beautiful. Essentially, you just follow the scenario guide and piece together the map like a puzzle until it's completely finished, and it's outlined by the border, which shows you positions to place your cards and keep track of all the intricacies of the game. Again, once it's assembled, what you'll have is a beautiful place to play, clearly printed with some beautiful terrain graphics and exactly what you need to keep track of all your cards. Now that the map is set up and following along with the guidelines in the scenario booklet, the next thing we want to do is take a look at the orders cards. There are several orders cards included in each game, and again, each scenario limits those order cards that each team can choose from. Here you see 3 order cards on top for the German side and 3 on the bottom for the Americans. These are shuffled together and one is chosen at random from the 3, 4, or however many the scenario dictates. The rest are laid aside. Here, chosen at random from the 3 available to each side, are the 2 cards for this particular game. The Americans have chosen Skirmish, which essentially is going to limit them to coming onto the map until turn 2, but it also challenges them to kill over half of the enemy soldiers encountered and gains 13 victory points at the end. They have an additional bonus at the top. Basically, they gain 7 victory points for each prisoner they can capture during this game. Likewise, the Germans' order is Attack. Capture over half of the landmarks in play. You'll notice on the map earlier that there were larger tiles that were basically 4 times the size of most of the other tiles. Those are landmarks. In this case, the Germans will gain 7 victory points for each captured landmark. Captured meaning that they are the only ones on it at the end of the game. They also have a bonus, Survival. Soldiers surviving count half victory points. Next, we need to take a look at our army selections. This is probably one of the most exciting parts about this game, at least for the miniatures gamer sided, or even a collectible gamer. As you'll find out in the game, there are certain soldiers that come with the game that everybody will get. Everyone will get fields. For example, shown here in their game. However, the other soldiers you receive are going to be randomly generated. You can take a look at Lost Battalion Games or look around on Board Game Geek for a better explanation. But trust me, this is an exciting thing that Lost Battalion has came up with in a very interesting way to give an individual feel to every soldier. In this scenario, the Americans are told that they have to choose two particular soldiers. That's Harrison and Fields. And you see their cards here. So you have to take those two soldiers along with their miniatures. Even though this scenario dictates that you take Harrison and Fields, you also get up to 12 victory points of additional troops and up to 1 additional leader. Since the game only ships with 4 soldiers on either side, I'm going to set up the army only using 4 soldiers. In this particular case, I chose to take 2 other soldiers. Basically, they're privates, and they cost 3 victory points apiece, so I've spent 6 of the 12 possible. It also tells me to distribute 6 grenades amongst all of my soldiers, which I have, and I've chosen not to spend any more victory points for anything, even though I could have spent more on more grenades. Part of this is because in the special instructions, you actually gain victory points at the end of the game if you've spent less than your opponent. This is the American side. Let's take a look at the Germans. The Germans likewise are dictated a couple of soldiers that they have to take with this scenario, and again, these 2 soldiers are the same regardless of which copy of Day of Days you buy. However, the other soldiers are going to be individual. Here you see the 2 required soldiers at the top, and the 2 other soldiers that were chosen down below. In this scenario, the Germans get 12 victory points of troops and up to 1 additional leader. Again, in this case, I only took 2 additional soldiers to show you how to play the game as it would typically ship with no additional purchases. Two grenades are divided amongst the soldiers, and 2 grenades can be bought for other victory points. In this case, I did choose to spend an additional victory point just to show you how it works. 1 victory point, 2 grenades, I give them to whomever I decide. This is the German side. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the game. The story deck is another unique feature of Sergeants. It basically tells the story of each scenario. In this game, you're given a large deck of cards, but each scenario will dictate that you remove certain cards that just do not pertain to that scenario, or will perhaps trigger events that would cause something to happen that isn't on the map for that scenario. Once you've extracted those cards, shuffle all the rest together and put them in the proper place alongside the map. This will dictate the story of the game, and as you can probably tell, if you played this certain scenario 4 or 5 times in a row, the way the story plays out would be different each time.